Back here on Texas Football Today, the Labor Day Spectacular. Pickle, let's go to the hotline. We are pleased to be joined by the head coach of the 2-0 Klein Oak Panthers, Coach Brandon Carpenter. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing great, Tep. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. How are things in H-Town?
Man, they're great today. The weather's great. My wife and two younger daughters are on their way back from Lubbock. This is my oldest daughter, who's a student there at Tech, and I'm doing some real OG stuff like house cleaning, laundry. Going to go pick up some groceries later. Man, it's a great day.
Man, that is, let me tell you, I hope your wife is listening to this. I really do, because you deserve the brownie points that you're going for right now. Coach, you guys are 2-0, a resounding 35-6 win last Thursday over Katy Cinco Ranch. This has been a red-hot start for your Panthers to start the season, outscoring your first two opponents 77-13. Did you have an inkling that you guys had an opportunity to make a statement early on this season?
Man, I thought we had a chance to be a much improved football team. But the evaluation piece for me is we still have a lot to clean up, and I think we can play a lot better. But at the same time, I'm not going to overlook our early success and the things we've done right to be in this position. So it feels great, but we still got a lot of work to do to get to our finished product.
I think a real great embodiment and kind of encapsulation of the improvement you guys have made is on the defensive side. Just go apples to apples with last year's start. You guys started 2-0 last year, but you beat those same two opponents, Spring Decaney and Cinco Ranch, by, gave up 60 points in those games. These first two games, you guys have given up 13. What has been the difference on the defensive side for you guys so far this year?
It definitely starts with our defensive coordinator, Zach Kelly. Zach was on my defensive staff in my first head coaching stop back at Tarkington. And I knew at that point, he was an unbelievable young coach with a bright future, and always thought if I ever got a chance to be a head coach again, he would definitely be a guy that I would want on my staff. So I had that opportunity to bring him on board, and he stepped in, as our defensive coordinator last year. We kind of switched schemes in the middle of the district season to something that was really more his wheelhouse, what he was really comfortable with. We kind of retained the scheme we had been playing for a long time, just because that's what our kids were most comfortable with. But we ended up having some injury situations, and everybody does. I mean, I don't want that to sound like an excuse, but it was a reality for us that we lost some really, really good players. And we're forced to kind of play some really young guys earlier than we wanted to. So I think it was just a culmination of a lot of new faces, kind of adjusting the scheme mid-season. And, the kids played hard. I thought we coached hard, but I think you're starting to see now the real rendition of what it should look like when our kids are comfortable with the scheme and they're, have a year of experience under their belt for some of those guys, and just playing really hard. And that's the big key. Just play hard. And our guys are doing that right now.
You mentioned last year some injuries that you guys had. And with those injuries, you had a number of youngsters. You had 4 sophomores starting on either side of the ball last year. It's at one point or another. Do you feel like you've seen that growth from those players that you can tie directly to, let's call them the lumps that they took in 2022?
No question. No question. To me, our defensive line, we've got 3 guys on our defensive line, 2 that start, 1 that rotates in quite a bit. And 2 of those guys ended up playing a lot of high volume last year, sophomores. Those guys are playing great. And then our 2 corners, we've got a kid named Cortland Guillory, who is a big, long corner. Everybody that comes to practice, loves him. I think he's about to pop and be a multi-offer, big-time guy. And because he's so long and pretty, they keep picking on the other junior kid named Casey Vitito. And KC has responded with an amazing start to the season. He against Decaney, when he was matched up against one of the top receivers in the state, he gave up no receptions, 3 PBUs, and had a pick. So I just think, having that year under their belts, kind of see what it was like, really kind of help them feed into the offseason of what they knew they needed to improve on. And you're seeing all those younger guys just play with a lot of confidence and a lot of freedom right now.
talking with Brandon Carpenter, the head coach of the Klein Panthers here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation at #TF Today. Coach, I want to talk about a couple of players individually. Most notably, I've been very impressed by what we've seen from your quarterback, Lucas Shearhorn. This is a guy who it feels like has started to grow into that role and had a really nice game this past week against in your win over Cinco Ranch. Threw for 176 yards and a pair of scores, ran for 77 yards and a touchdown. The numbers are impressive. What is it about Lucas Shearhorn that sets him apart, that makes him special?
He's a Klein Oak man. He is a consummate leader. He's going to always get extra work. He's a great student. He's very well liked by his teammates and his coaches. I mean, he's just kind of what epitomizes what you need in that position. He's athletic enough. He can make plays with his legs. His accuracy's been really good. In fact, his numbers are probably a little misleading in the accuracy department because part of his growth as a player was learning when to throw the ball away. If there's one thing last year, being an athletic kid, he just wanting to make that play even when things were breaking down. And at times, we took some losses in some situations where he could have thrown the ball away. And he's done that a little bit this year and kind of, it hurts his completion percentage a little bit. But for me, I see a huge growth in his willingness to understand situational football. And it's okay to throw it out of bounds and live to play another day. But Lucas is just, he's in total command of our offense right now. It's like having another coach on the field. What he sees and how he's able to communicate those things on the sideline with the offensive staff and myself is just making a huge difference for us.
The other guy I want to ask you about is your running back, Jacob Everson. This is a guy who, as a sophomore, was call him a rotational back, a guy who got his touches, but certainly just a member of what was a pretty rotational backfield back there. Now, kind of seems like there's no doubt he's the bell cow guy. Have you seen him grow into that new role where he is going to be really the feature back for the Panthers?
Oh, absolutely. We really knew last year, again, it was due to injury. We kind of had to bring Jake up. We had two really talented senior backs, both, like you said, those guys we felt like could do anything we needed of them. So it was a great rotation. When one, the starter had a high ankle sprain, and then we lost the backup with a broken collarbone to Klein Collins in our first district game. So it kind of forced our hand to bring Jacob up probably a little sooner than we wanted to. But once he really got acclimated to what it was like to play on Friday night, he scored 6 touchdowns, and his average distance of touchdown score was 44 yards. So we knew he was an explosive player. And, he's 6'1", 218 pounds, and you're starting to see now what, feeding him the ball, he's just able to wear people down because of his size and power. And, he's averaging 5.9 yards per rush. He's got 3 touchdowns this year. He's our wildcat guy. Anybody watches film or sees us play, there's times you're going to see us snap it right to him and let him go. But no, and again, you talk about he's an honor roll student, one of the brightest kids at Klein Oak. Just unbelievable work ethic, just another great example of kids in our program.
Coach, normally I'd ask you about, your next opponent coming this week, but your next opponent, I'm looking here in my notes, is an open date.
Yes, sir.
You got the week 3 bye, the week 3 open date. How do you approach that situation? You play 2 games, and now you get the open date before you hit a real big game in 2 weeks against Dickinson before you get into district play. How do you approach this week and make sure you get done what you need to get done?
That's a great question because honestly, early in my coaching career, I was never really a big fan of an early break. Mm-hmm. I felt like, hey, you get going, you get your feet under you, you get some momentum. Why take a week off? Let's have a week later on. And of course, we don't really get to determine a lot of that. Some of that depends on our district schedule and how many teams we have, et cetera. But I've really kind of flipped my mind on that. And I'm really looking at it as an opportunity for us to really focus on these last 2 games, the mistakes that we've made that have limited some of our production, and a great opportunity to clean those things up and get really sharp at those before we hit what is a really tough slate of opponents. So that's kind of, where I'm at with it mentally. I'm actually sitting here working on the practice script right now for this upcoming week. So that's a great question, and that's just kind of my approach and how I'm looking at it right now.
He's Brandon Carpenter. He's the head coach of the 2-0 Klein Oak Panthers. Coach, we sure appreciate your time. Congratulations again on the 2-0 start. And enjoy your holiday, enjoy your open date, and then go get Dickinson in a week.
Hey, I appreciate everything you guys do for high school football, man. You guys are the best, and I'm honored to be on here. Thank you so much, Deb.
Appreciate you, Coach. There he goes, Brandon Carpenter, head coach of the Klein Oak Panthers, off to a 2-0 start and a dominant 2-0 start. They have throttled their first two opponents. And I draw those straight lines. And I don't think, to be clear, I don't think Cinco Ranch is as good as they were last year. I think they're still kind of growing as they are. But to clobber them 35-6 is really impressive.
Yeah,
and
no, it really was.
I think open date and then Dickinson. And the Dickinson game is going to be a real measuring stick because that's a good Dickinson team. That's a kind of complete Dickinson team. They do that, then you start talking about what the kind of damage they can do within that district. 15-6A, I want to say. A lot to like about this Klein Oak team. They were young last year. Feels like they've grown, and I'm telling you, especially on that defensive side. Because last year, the defense kind of, like, I felt like at times the defense kind of, the bottom fell out of it. This year's defense looks like a defense first team. And so you want to talk about a sustainable model heading forward for Brandon Carpenter's Panthers. I'm really excited to see what they do in a couple weeks against Dickinson. We appreciate his time.
Thanks so much for watching that video. If you would like more and to be notified when they come out, go ahead and click that subscribe button right down there. You can also watch Texas Football Today every day live at noon on TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, and right here on YouTube. For more of the best coverage of Texas football in the Lone Star State, go to TexasFootball.com/subscribe.